All right, guys, we're not on the air, but we have a special guest. Nikki's joining us today on Business Talk, and Mike's with us, and Trevor. And it is not snowing anymore outside, which is good. I don't know if you guys woke up to snow. I was walking the dogs in the dark at 6 o'clock this morning because I have an early meeting with Nikki on Wednesdays, and it was snowing. I'm like, what the hell? Was it snowing down South Jersey by you and Mike?
Yeah, I had some flurries on my car. I looked out the window and I was like, what's this? I was going to go walking in the
You
park
guys are all
later.
South Jersey, right? Monmouth County, Ocean County?
Yep, it was all coming down this morning.
Yeah, it's almost all melted by now, actually.
So, Nikki, there's something you don't know,
Yeah.
that Trevor and Mike go, I'm sure they didn't do it today, but they go to work out at the park like 4:30 in the morning.
We're gluttons for
Craziness.
punishment.
Yeah. So you guys couldn't do that today, right?
No.
What do you do when
No,
it's this
not-
cold? You can't go outside, right?
Well, the funny thing is, I actually have a home-based gym in my garage. Like, we didn't go this morning, but I have
He
like
would
a
come
heater in
over
there. Yeah, it's the Hard Knock Anderson gym, I guess.
Well, in the old days, you would go to the gym, right? What do they open at 5? Yeah. So you
Yeah,
get there
something
right
like that.
when
Yeah,
they're-
5. Yeah. Yep.
I can't function. When I get up at 6, I got to get back into bed before my first meeting. I don't know how you guys function when it comes to that kind of stuff.
It gets you going for the day. Get you going for the day.
I guess, but by 3 o'clock, I'd be asleep on the couch. I mean, I fall asleep as it is on the couch. So, Nikki, thanks for joining us, because I told you that, we needed your wisdom. And this roundtable is like, we talk about all kind of business topics for small business owners and companies. We've had motivational speakers. We had Trevor brought on a friend last week 2 weeks ago from former NFL player who's now a business like private equity guy and advisor, and he does deals and things like that. So, but we all know that you are a transformational coach. Like, you are the positive person in the room. So yeah, so we wanted to talk about, all that power of positive thinking, because the guys don't know this. I didn't tell them, but I took your course on, what was it? How to bring money into your life. It's like a money coaching course, right?
Yes, money mindset.
Highly recommend it, guys, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So why don't you introduce yourself for the video, and then we'll start talking about stuff that you do.
Sure, absolutely. So I like to say that I help you to wake up and shake up your life. I help you to create unshakable habits to grow your business and have more success in work and life. And that is an inside out approach to success.
Right. And you are certified and trained in a number of things, right? You've just recently been a hypnotherapist, and you do NLP, and you got, tell us what your background is.
Lots of tools. So I have a certification in success and life coaching. I also do law of attraction coaching. And that's where we get into all the being deliberate and intentional in the thoughts you choose to think. And most recently, clinical hypnotherapy. So I've got lots of tools, and you get to choose what works for you. And we can really get in there and change your paradigm so you can start living your life on purpose and with intention.
I think it's important when somebody's a professional that they, do things to educate themselves and get certified. There's a lot of people in all kinds of businesses that are just like, oh, I'm a coach. Really? That's it.
Yeah.
they want to help people. I understand that, but you have to, raise the bar a little bit. Yeah. So I think that this is good, right, guys? Because we had on, when was Michelle on? 2 weeks ago?
I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Have you 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah.
Have you ever met Michelle Dickinson? Nikki, did I ever connect you with her?
The name sounds familiar.
Conversations That Matter, and she works in the employment space, like with corporations, about health and wellness at work. And I think that a lot of what you do is important because we're all suffering, we're all depressed and not happy, and waiting online to get a shot in our arm now. But it's just a sad time for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think a lot of great synergy there. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll introduce you to her. But what have you seen, like, for the people that you're working with, and how to get them, more motivated and positive during all this stuff that's going on?
Yeah, well, I say be informed, of course, right? Be smart, but as much as you can, minimize your intake of the images that are being out there, of what's being said in the news and on social media. Make how you feel your top priority. So if you're engaging in something that's causing you to feel stressed or overwhelmed or scared, put it aside, right? Because we don't need to see and hear the same things repeatedly over and over again. I mean, that's the thing with our beliefs. Our beliefs are just thoughts you keep thinking. So if you keep listening to the same thing and thinking the same thoughts over and over again, it becomes your belief system, right? So yeah, I say to really be deliberate with what you choose to let in your world and keep your focus on. And you have every right to choose what you want to give your attention to.
And you're big on news fasts, right? You don't really watch the
Yeah,
news, right?
I do not. I do
And
not.
you're fine.
watch
You don't feel like you're
news.
missing out on anything, right?
No, you know what? People are very happy to inform me of what's going on. So I hear about it through people that I know. I do see it on social media, but you've got to pick and choose, you know? So I always say in my world, things are going pretty well. I know that I might get a little backlash for that, but I used to apologize for who I am, and I'm not about that anymore. I think everybody should be able to say what they feel and believe what they want, right? Because at the end of the day, you're living with yourself, right?
Well, that's the problem, right?
Yeah, sometimes that's a problem.
For people. Yeah. Well, you can better yourself and you can feel better about yourself. Like you said, you don't have to do that if it's really upsetting you that much. Just put it aside. Or if you do have to do it, then don't do it right then. Like, right? Put it aside and take a breath.
Exactly. And let me say, I'm very familiar with anxiety and depression. This whole happiness thing, this was something that I had to develop. It was a skill that I had to hone. It was certainly not natural. I was miserable growing up. So I get it. And I know what it's like. But I also know that it sucks up a lot of your life. And time is something that we don't get back, right? That's like one of the only resources that is limited. So after seeing that somehow 20 years went by and I was still standing in the same place and everybody else moved on, I was like, you know, time to wake up. So I decided that from now on, I'm making how I feel my top priority, and I'm going to choose what I want to focus on and listen to. And you can develop the skill of being happy. I see it as a skill. And
it's definitely a skill.
Yeah, it's a choice. You get to choose it. And it's a state, right? It's a state that we always have access to. So.
You know, well, I think that when you get into situations, something's aggravating you, or you're really mad about something, or, you know, you're mad at somebody or whatever, you're just letting them steal part of your life away from you, even if it's 10 minutes or 2 hours or 2 weeks. And you, like you said, you can't get that back. So what's like, I think like anger and shame and worry, they're like emotions that should have never been invented. They're like total waste. Like because you never get anywhere. Well, you do get anywhere. You aggravate yourself, but you know what I mean? So I think it's refreshing to know that you weren't always like this, because you're one of the more positive people that we know. You're always smiling. You always have a good, you know, attitude and view of things. As is not just to compliment you. That's compared to the hundreds of people I meet on a regular basis online. And I think that, you know, people do it. I mean, it's something that you can change and you can learn. See, Trevor, Mike, you can get a positive attitude. You don't have to always be negative like you guys are all the time.
You know, one of the things I have a question for, Nikki, and I think about what you do, and, you know, we've known each other for a while now. And I remember way back when talking about working with different companies. And now I see even more with entrepreneurs is this feeling of being stuck, right? Where you're kind of plateauing at, I can't get to this next level of sales because I'm struggling with this, or I'm depleting my kind of hours in the day because I'm always putting out fires. I know you said about changing your mindset into kind of that positive attitude. Are there steps that you kind of, you know, really kind of put out there for entrepreneurs, or is it separate for people looking for personal development in their own life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually have a lot of resources that are out there for people that are available on my website and different social media channels. But I think the very first step is awareness, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. And so the first thing is to become aware and slow down enough to take a breath. I don't think we breathe enough. You know, like we breathe, obviously, but it's very shallow. But I think that's the first step, like a couple of deep breaths and be willing to sit with the feeling. I mean, people want to keep going, right? You start to notice a little bit of stress or overwhelm, and it's like, what can I do? Like, let me open up my Facebook or my Instagram and let me just get lost in social media. It's like a an escapism, right? So it's like when you notice any kind of a negative emotion coming up, like be willing to sit with it. One of the earlier years ago, I heard Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor say that an emotion is just energy. And we're so afraid of feeling, right? Like we don't want to feel. We'd rather numb ourselves out, whether it's playing Candy Crush or having a glass of wine or, like I said, getting lost in social media, right? But what if you took, and she says it only takes 90 seconds for an emotion to move through you. And if you're feeling the emotion for more than a minute and a half, it's because you got stuck in a story. And that's part of what we do. Like you were saying, Trevor, I can't tell you how many people say I put out fires all day. Be mindful of the language you use, because that's what you're telling yourself, that you put out fire. So you're going to keep perpetuating that. So and that's like another simple thing that you could do is just kind of catch yourself, right? And have grace for yourself, you know, be kind to yourself. Like, oh, there I go again. You know, how else can I say that in a way that doesn't put you in fight or flight? Because that's what happens, right? We're constantly in fight or flight, which was helpful years ago, right? When there were like lions, tigers, and bears that we had to escape from. But now the littlest thing could send us off into that stress goes off, right? And we can really lower that by using words that don't spark that so much.
Right. Well, because a lot of it's not real, right? I mean, it's just an emotion that we're having, and it's really not. I remember when I was younger, I still kind of have this problem. I get motion sickness. So like, you're not going on a roller coaster with me, you know, that kind of stuff. And when I would sit in the car, especially in the back when I was little, I used to get car sick all the time. But it got to the point where I could get in the car wasn't even on yet, and I would start to feel nauseous. I was like, can you turn the air on? And my mom's like, can I turn the key in the engine first? I mean, you know, and you, because I was so anticipating. Like, that's why I don't go on roller coasters, because I could probably survive the roller coaster, but like, what's the point? I'm not going to even enjoy it. Be worrying about throwing up or whatever. And because I know I get motion sickness. That's just what's happened to me. But I think you're right. Your mind can really control your thoughts and your feelings and your physical being. And you can change that. Like, you can take over the control that it has on you. Is that an accurate statement?
Absolutely. Yeah. The body follows the mind.
Okay.
Always. I mean, even if right now, if I told everybody if you can, to just look down or close your eyes and to picture a lemon, seeing that bright yellow rind and holding it close to your nose and smelling it and smelling the citrusy smell. And then imagining taking a knife and cutting it and then feeling the juice as it pops out and maybe lands on your skin. And then the intensity of that flavor, right? You smell it even more. And then maybe you go and you sink your teeth into it and you taste it.
Yeah, it makes you pucker up.
Who had more saliva in their mouth as I was, right? Did you really taste the lemon?
No.
No, but the body follows the mind always.
Anticipation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So being more intentional about what you put in your mind, what you say to yourself, and your body follows. Think about it. Even like you guys were talking about going to the park earlier, and I was doing this yesterday. I had a half-hour argument in my mind about whether I was going to the gym or not. I go to the gym. I mean, I have to wear a mask, but I go. Right. And it's like, I feel tired. I got to bed late. I don't know. What followed that? I was feeling kind of sluggish. And I was like, I'm going to skip it. I'll go tomorrow. Then I'm like, wait a minute. I want to be a fit person. I want to identify with being fit. I started feeling better. And it's like, it's amazing how that's just how it works. The body follows the mind.
I had a friend had a panic attack at a gym. She was there and she was like, okay, I'm going to go. She had the mask on and I don't know what happened. Somebody had her mask off or there was stuff flying or, it was a gym. And they're all separated, and she hasn't gone back since because she just freaked out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's totally understandable. I'm sorry, Trevor. What were you saying?
I also think it has to do with like the infectious personality too, Nikki. So, I mean, what I've seen, kind of surrounding myself with people that aren't concerned with the word fires and concentrating on power positivity. I think it really changes who you are too. I mean, Mike and I, we feed off each other quite a bit. He's a very energetic person myself, and we get to work out. And the explosive ideas we have sometimes when it's like 4:30 in the morning and it's 0 degrees and we're riding our bikes through the town of Spring Lake, it's just like, it's transcending. And I think sometimes people don't take the time to kind of evaluate that or kind of associate with people like that. Sometimes at an organization, especially now with what we're dealing with COVID and resounding effects and so on and so forth, there's this like lull in the air. So I think a lot of culture is kind of been disrupted. So how did what's kind of like I know that you have different programs in place, but have you been able to kind of help transform some of these companies, kind of like get them, change their way of thinking a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mostly work with entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, but absolutely have been able to have them change the way they think, because that's really the kind of work I do. That's the transformation work. It's changing your identity, your belief systems, your values, right? And then when you do make those changes there's a trickle down effect. And that's where 100% your behaviors change. So yeah, and it's really nice to be a witness to that and give people the tools, right? That's the difference between coaching and therapy, actually, is that as a coach, I'm giving people tools, teaching them how to use them, and then they can use that again and again. So it's not meant to be forever that you have a coach, right? But that you're kind of given those skills. Since we weren't taught that in school, how to cope and deal, right?
Yep.
And then you could do it on your own. And like anything, it's a skill that you develop. You practice, you get better, you become more resilient, right?
Absolutely. But I think, the power of positivity makes a lot of sense. And I think it's a matter of who you surround yourself with, is a big part of that. And then not only that too, is that you notice people that get stuck. I feel like a lot of times they get stuck because instead of finding the one reason why they can do something, they find the 101 reasons why they can't do something. And then they almost feel stuck. I'm curious to know, like, how many people that you're working with that are focused on maybe things that are completely out of their control. I feel like a lot of times people will actually, focus so much of their energy on like the few things that are out of their control. Whereas the reality is that you can focus all of your time on the things that are in your control, because things are out of your control. There's nothing you could do anyway, right? So it's like almost a waste of energy. So I'm curious to know, the people that you're working with, you find that pretty often to be, and what are kind of the steps that you take to really help them to focus beyond that, into maybe some of the areas that they have control over?
Good question.
Yeah, that is a great question. So I do see that a lot. And I think as humans, we are better able to define what we don't want. I mean, even if you ask somebody, what do you want for dinner? They'll answer you with what?
5 things I don't want to eat.
Yeah. I don't want
chicken again.
I'll eat anything. This is what happens in my house. I'll eat anything for dinner. Okay, well, we're going to go to Panera. I don't want to get Panera.
No, I don't want
to. All right, well, how about Qdoba? I don't want Qdoba. I mean,
I want Chipotle.
Exactly. This happens every night in my house. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It happens all the time.
It does. And that's with everybody, even if I'm asking, so who do you want to focus on? Like, who's your target market? Well, I don't want to work with so-and-so. So one of the things that I help people do is, how can you start making it a habit of focusing on what is it that you do want, right? And how to start asking yourself some quality questions, like outcome-oriented questions. Your brain is always searching for answers, right? Give it a question and it wants to find a solution. So ask it better questions. So I do help them, with putting their focus on what they want. And I've got a few different processes that I use. One of them is the STEER process, for example, that I created.
Yeah, you brought me through that.
I brought you through that. Yeah. And that's a great exercise in helping you to focus on, what is it that I want? How do I want to feel? So that you can start having access to some of those ideas and creative solutions, right? Whereas when you were focused on what you didn't want, you're not going to find the answer there. It's like you're going in the wrong direction. Like when you're traveling in the car and you put an address in the navigation, right? And you're following the route to get there. When you go the wrong way, you've got to recalculate. Put yourself back in the right direction. So when someone starts focusing on what they don't want, I help guide them. Okay, so then what do you do want? And tell me, what does that look like? And interestingly, I'm finding with people that they don't have a clear picture of what the thing is that they want, like what it looks like. They'll say, you know what, I honestly don't know what that looks like. And it's like not having a map for where you want to go, right?
Yeah.
So I help them with that. And I think you had a second part to your question that I don't think I answered.
So yeah, no, I think that you definitely hit on it, which is, I think the summary of it is focus on the things that you really want to do, what your mission and your vision is, and not focus on the things you don't want to do, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not going to necessarily give you any kind of good outcome to say, okay, now I know I don't want to do this, but okay, what do I want to do? Because that's the ultimate conclusion, is what it comes down to. But I would say maybe the other part of it really is that once they now know what they want to do, right? And the question is how do they stay focused to make sure they achieve it, right? Because I find that a lot of times they know what they want to do, and it's like, okay, how do I get there? And then as you're going through the motions with that, and the day gets busy day by day, and we go back to like the fires and all that stuff as well, you lose track of that, and then you get to a point where it's say, well, there's 101 reasons why I can't get there, right? And then they'll focus. Now they know where they want to go, but there's 101 reasons why they can't get there. And I think ultimately what it comes down to is just find the one reason of how you can get there, and why you're going to get there. I think it's so. Once you kind of get to that point, is there another part of your process that kind of gets them to say, okay, now we know where you want to go. That's good. We have some progress here. Okay, how are we going to get there? And how do we stay focused kind of along the way?
Yeah, that's a great question. And for entrepreneurs, many of us, we have got that shiny object syndrome, right? Where we just want to be all over the
We're
place.
right brain.
Yeah, totally. So I say pick a couple of things, like 1 to 3 things a day that you want to get done, instead of having like this whole list of to-dos, which when you look at it, it feels overwhelming. And we already talked about if you're feeling like tired or overwhelmed, you're not going to take action, right? So I say pick a couple of things that are going to help to move the needle forward in your business each day, and do those things first. Right. I mean, I personally like to do the things that I maybe don't really look forward to doing first when I have the most energy, before my energy gets sucked away on different things and you feel depleted at the end of the day. Right. But there's you can leverage small wins, right? You commit to doing one small thing that you 100% know that you can do. And then once you do it, you feel good about yourself. Now
achieved.
Now you've got that energy to ride on, right, for the next task. So and I also like to have my clients focus on outcomes rather than goals. Just the word goal itself, I know it can feel daunting to many people. It seems like it's something that's so far away from you, something that you have to achieve. But when you think of an outcome, there's always an outcome to every situation.
Oh yeah.
It kind of
great point.
Poses that it's a done deal. You're going to have an outcome, and then what's the outcome that you want to have?
Exactly. That's an excellent point.
Yeah. And one other thing I want to say, I was thinking about this, is so positivity is one thing, right? And I'm a big advocate of that, but at the same time, I also don't like, and Abraham Hicks puts it this way, is don't slap a happy face sticker on things. It's like if your gas tank in the car was on E and you took a little smiley face sticker and covered the E, it's not going to change the fact that your car is running out of gas, right? So I like to meet my clients where they're at. So if I see that I'm, maybe walking them through a process to help them to feel better and they're not there, then I stop. And that's where I help them deal with what's the emotion you're feeling, and let me help you to process that. I think it's really important to let yourself feel heard and seen, and give yourself the space to feel that emotion. It's like we were talking about earlier. If you're feeling overwhelmed, sit with it. What does it feel like? Where in your body are you feeling that overwhelm? How is it landing in your body? Now let's breathe through it. And I can coach them through that, processing the emotion so it can actually leave the body. And then you naturally feel better. Happy is your natural state.
Yeah, right. Naturally, we were born, we're kind of happy, right? We're not. If the baby's all nasty and upset all the time, you'd worry about him, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what's the matter with this kid? He's not happy.
Yeah.
We get to be adults. People are like, he's an adult. I mean, nobody's happy as an adult. We know that. But I think, Nikki, your point is a good one. And you took me through this in your when we did the training together, is that, you know, you just got to learn to ask better questions of yourself and your situation, positive questions, as opposed to negative. And there are people that they just keep asking negative questions, and they're just going to you can't get a positive result if you're asking negative questions all the time.
Right. And even like saying to yourself, you know, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the next step is. I really just am at a loss for what to do. What kind of an answer are you going to get for that? But if you just kind of take a couple of deep breaths and you're like, okay, what's my next best step? And then listen. You've got an internal guidance system, right? And we all know so much more than we think we know, but there's so much mind chatter going on, right? There's just so much noise that we can't hear. So even just kind of practicing being still, right? So, you know, so many of us, we don't, that's a scary thing to do for a lot of people.
No, meditation, they say, is healthy.
Yeah, it's very, very healthy. Yeah, and you can practice it. You don't have to sit, you don't have to put on like crazy woo-woo music and cross your legs and your fingers.
Right, exactly.
Do that. You could
what does that do? What does it do? The whole being in touch with yourself or something?
It helps you to focus and get present.
Okay.
And you don't even have to do that. Like while you're out walking in the park, you can make that a walking meditation. You can just say, you know what, for the next minute, I'm going to focus on everything I see. And I'm just going to look at the leaves and the blades of grass and the space between the leaves. And then I'm going to focus on everything I feel, where the wind is hitting me and, you know, where I feel it on my body. That's meditation. And it's something you don't have to make time for. You're doing it anyway. You know, when I used to commute to work back when I was a teacher, I would make my driving a meditation, you know, just like feel the leather seat. You know, was the temperature of the cold against my legs and the feel of the steering wheel, little things like that. It just gets you out of your head, out of any drama or perceived problems and into the present moment. We've got senses, let's use them. What do I see, hear, taste, feel, smell?
Right. We
gets you
probably only use 1 out of 5 on a regular basis.
Probably,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. And most of it's just seeing whatever we see. I mean, you ever think about something happened like 10 years ago and you get yourself so worked up, it's like happening again. And it's totally not the person's whatever. Yeah. And you could actually feel physically.
Yeah.
Like embarrassed or sick or whatever. It's ridiculous.
That's the body following the mind.
Yeah. The mind is a powerful thing. And I don't think we really understand it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we can use it to our advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that out of all, I think I told you this when we were on the podcast together, out of all people I've interviewed and talked to and you know, from coaches to business owners or whatever, a lot of it is self-awareness, like awareness of your situation and being purposeful about what I'm not saying self-conscious because that's a negative thing, but consciousness about you know, why am I feeling this way? If you don't like it, I should change it. I can do this. A lot of us don't. We just like wander through life like zombies. You know, we're going from our phone to the TV to the this and the that. And and that's kind of how we're just raised, you know?
Yeah, well, we're kind of taught that, right? We're taught to grow up, put on your big boy shorts, right?
Right.
And get over it and move on. And people have it worse. And so we're kind of taught that not to feel. So we've got to relearn that it's okay to feel and always approaching it with more like curiosity. Because I know even for myself, if I say, why am I feeling this way? It's almost like I'm making myself wrong for feeling that way. And that just makes us shut down because the truth is we get to feel however we're feeling and that needs to be honored. Not saying stay there and live in it, but give yourself the space to feel.
But it's also a sign of something else, right? There's a reason you're feeling that way.
There's a reason.
So you got to address it, not like you're bad for feeling that way.
Yeah. So I like to approach it from a space of curiosity where I'm like, that's interesting. I'm having some feelings of overwhelm right now. I wonder what that's about. And if you listen, you'll hear that voice inside. You'll hear something and it's like, okay, and trust whatever comes up.
That's good. Because so Nikki feels really mad at somebody. She'd be like, that's interesting. I want to murder that person. I wonder why I feel that way. Other people just be like,
Sounds like a book or a movie in the making there, Mitch.
Right. Definitely a Netflix series.
Yeah, it's definitely a Netflix series.
Series.
Yeah.
So as I guess it's matter of it makes so much sense. It's just really embracing it, right? Embracing the feeling because and listening, basically listening. Because you just go, it's especially overwhelming, right? If you're overwhelmed, it's like your mind's going in multiple different places. If you just kind of take a step back, listen, and really embrace what you're feeling, it'll kind of point to a reason behind it and ultimately an outcome, of how you can get through that particular situation.
Yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it, Michael. I mean, part of the overwhelm and everything, what makes it so bad is that you're fighting it, right? Like you don't
exactly.
want to stress.
Exactly.
You're resisting it. So embrace it and lean in. That's another thing I'll say, like lean into it. Get curious about it. And then it loses its power.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like too, it's like a lot of times you could just power through it. You're like, okay, I'm overwhelmed. I'm just going to power through all this stuff and kind of get it done. You never really take a step back. I find myself is a lot of times take a step back and actually listen, and really embrace, whatever that that feeling is. So
a lot of people can't power through. They're like, I don't want this problem. I don't want these issues. But the truth is, problems are a sign of life, right? You don't. Yeah. Problems go away like at the end of your life when you die. That's probably it.
Yeah.
But in accepting that, I always say that I think that if you like accept the fact that this is challenging and you're okay with that, whatever it is that you have to deal with, let's say you have to deal with it, you don't have a choice, whatever it is, you're okay with the fact that this is going to be difficult, then when it is difficult, it doesn't seem so big, It's more like, well, I expected that to be, my first day in court, let's say, right?
Yep.
Well, I expected that to suck because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm nervous. I can't think straight, whatever it is. So I didn't have that attitude because I didn't think that way then. I was some young kid coming out of law school. I didn't know what I was doing. And, I guess I went to bed. I don't know. But that, and if I had that attitude, I think it would have changed the experience is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So with that being said, Mitch, it's something interesting. You think of failures, right? So that to me is like, but I've learned from it. So I love failure. So the failures in my life have just made me the person I am. And I think that's also an important thing to realize and not, gloat or, look down upon them negatively. It's really like what you said, Mike, it's a way of growing. And I think that kind of goes to setting that stage of an expectation where, hey, listen, I want to try to achieve this role or run this company or buy this thing. And maybe it didn't work out. Well, maybe then I look at it and say, hey, why? Opposed to just like motoring through it and going on to the next one, just really evaluating it and being aware, right? That self-awareness is like, well, maybe I said something in the meeting, it didn't make sense, or, did I pick my nose? But sometimes you don't think about it in the heat of the moment. It's almost like game time, right? It's like we're playing the footage a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's like when you fail, you're one step closer to doing it right. So you want to figure out, well, why?
It's leading you to that success, right? So, all the failures
fail our way to success, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And you think about it too, it's, and that's a great point, Trevor, is that why, why did this actually happen? And you learn from, okay, well, if I, this a little different, because then it's just going to change the outcome when you do it again, or the way you go about doing it again, right? It's not that you're going to stop what you're doing. You're going to continue to move forward, but you're going to learn from what worked well and what didn't work well, and I think what didn't work well, it kind of helps to perfect it, right? And get it to, where you want to go and lead you to success. And you think of like all these stories, right? You can go on and on with some of the big success of history of, all these different, business people like Walt Disney or Steve Jobs or all these people that basically had success. They had a lot of failures before they had that success.
You don't learn anything from success.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And to your point, one of the principles in NLP is that there is no failure, only feedback. And that is a great reframe, I think, because it's like you were saying, Trevor, it's like, what did I get to learn? Right? I didn't fail. I just learned what didn't work. And I think Thomas Edison said the same thing, like how many times he tried to create the light bulb and he just learned 10,000 ways that it didn't work until he learned the way that it did.
Exactly.
I know your NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, right?
Yes.
And you're trained in that. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, I'm actually getting trained in that right now. So NLP, It's learning the language of the mind. Like we've got two minds, our subconscious
It's not like Dianetics.
and our conscious. Our, our conscious and our subconscious, but we're mostly in our subconscious mind. And so like the term you might hear is, I feel like I'm on autopilot. I wake up, I make my coffee, I get ready for work, I do my thing. Before you know it, it's nighttime and I do it all over again. You're kind of just going through the motions, right? That's how you're able to drive somewhere and you don't really have to think of putting your foot on the gas and where your hand, you don't have to think of that. Your body just knows.
Do you ever
right?
drive somewhere where you're going somewhere else, but it's kind of on the way to some other place you're used to going and you find yourself at the other place because you're not paying attention? You're like, what the hell am I?
Yeah.
Right?
Or even better, you're driving and you're like, where am I?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why am I on the parkway?
Well, that's
Like,
dementia, Trevor.
Mike and I
That's different.
suffer from that all the time. It's like,
right. Because you're just so used to, like you said, Nikki, you're so used to doing it that
You're
way.
used to it, yes. Or you arrive. I've gotten to places and I'm like, oh, I'm here already. How'd that happen?
Right. You don't even remember. Hope I didn't hit anybody on the way.
yeah, I know, right?
Thank
I'm
God I
wanted
didn't.
in 5 states. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's all because it's all the subconscious, right? And so our subconscious thinks in pictures, sounds, and feelings. So if I say, don't think of a pink elephant, what just ran
Yeah.
across
That's all you're going to think
your
of.
mind?
Right.
Big
right?
elephant. Yeah.
Pink elephant. And another thing, the subconscious doesn't process negatives. So when you say don't, like I don't want to screw up this meeting, all your mind heard was screw up this meeting. So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy that you make happen, right? So knowing these little things about how the mind works, that's what NLP helps you to do. So even when it comes to the outcomes that you want to create, like make sure you have a clear picture. Like, what does that look like? What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? That's going to help your mind to go and execute on that so that you can get to that outcome. So that's just a little quick overview of NLP, the language of the mind.
Very good. I
Wow.
love that stuff. Yeah. I think that we all could use paying a bit better attention to, what we do on a regular basis.
Yeah. And believing
Exactly.
that your success is inevitable. I mean, that is the one belief I adopted when I quit my job. I quit. I took the leap, believing a net would appear. And it's like, I'm going to proceed as if success is inevitable, rather than waiting and having all my ducks in a row first and then doing that. So, and another thing I also tell people to do is redefine success. Sometimes we've got to do that for ourselves, right? What we think success is, and then even being open to it and embracing it. Because sometimes there's a fear of success, like with success, responsibility, and then we end up self-sabotaging, right?
Yeah.
It's easier
actually-
to sabotage.
It's interesting you say that because, I come across so many situations where you're working with someone, whether, like as an example, mentoring people, in my business that, they did something that worked and it worked well. And then for whatever reason, they stopped doing it. And it's like, okay, well, you had success doing it. Well, I just stopped, doing it. It's almost like to your point, fear of the success or fear that it's not going to be the same outcome again. I don't know what it is, but it's almost like, you have a little success and you stop doing it. Right. And it's just, it kind of gets in your way.
Yeah. Gay Hendricks, he's the author of The Big Leap and other books, but he calls it an upper limit. How we all get to what we're comfortable with success. And then once we broach that, it's like, whoop, danger, like those sensors go off. And then we're like you said, you accomplished something and then you were doing so well and then you just stopped. Why is that? Well, that person hit their upper limit. But when you have the awareness of what's going on, now you could say, wait a minute, none of this is real. I've just hit an upper limit. So how do I want to proceed moving forward?
Yep.
Very good. Well, Nikki, we appreciate you joining us for what has been about 45 minutes of thoughtful communication and hopefully helping some people out there who, need to get a hold of themselves a little bit. So how can people interact with you and find you and connect with you?
And by the way, thanks for having me. I just want to say that, you guys, I
You're
always
welcome.
love these deep conversations that matter. So thank you. This has been
Thank you
fun.
for joining.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. You can connect with me. I'm on all social media. My website is mindfulmattersliving.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I've got a YouTube channel. So if you're interested in listening to any more, I've got videos on topics of mindset, mindfulness, money manifestation, success, focus, all that. There's
Do you have
tons.
any courses coming up? I know you always have something going on.
I do. Well, my Creating Money coaching program is going to be starting up again in March. So that's
Okay.
a fun 6-week program, changing your relationship with money, how you identify with money, being more comfortable, getting to your next level and receiving. So that's coming up.
And they can find that on your website, get on your
They
mailing
can
list.
find that on my website. I've got a wait list they can get on, so they'll be notified when the doors open again. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, Nikki. So guys, thank Nikki for coming.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nikki. It was great having you on the show.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for joining. Great dialogue, great conversation. Yeah, amazing conversation. Thank you.
You're
All right, so thanks, Nikki. I'm Mitch, and for Mike and Trevor, this has been Business Talk.